And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, I'm going to be focusing a little bit about Bronny James and why he wasn't drafted in the first round and why I don't think he's going to be drafted in the second round. So I'm just going to pull up my notes real quick. So just give me just a few seconds real quick. Okay, here we go. And here we have our notes. Let me just go ahead and pull up the image of Bronny. There we go. So earlier in the comment section, somebody asked me, where do I think Bronny James is going? And honestly, with the way that this after a while, after a little bit of thinking and after some careful consideration, I don't think Bronny is going to get drafted. As much as, a lot of people are pushing that narrative and how popular his name is, this, that, and the other, I don't really think he's going to get drafted. There's several major issues with his game that could be a problem and could be a risk when you're drafting. And, I know, like, how could you say this about the glorious king's offspring? How could you say this? But it genuinely, like, he's not that guy. I'm sorry to say it, but Bronny is a little bit overhyped with this draft simply because his dad is LeBron James. And you know, I'm not going to deny his work ethic. I am not going to deny his skills as a player, and I'm not doing any of that. And I do respect his confidence for trying to be in the NBA draft and things of that nature. But I genuinely do not think that any team is going to take a risk in drafting him. And I'll give you guys several reasons. So, one, his height. He is 6'1", 6'2". One of those two, no idea which one's accurate. And honestly, a lot of the times, a lot of NBA players, they like to lie about their height. Kevin Durant, he did that before. And there are other players that lied about their heights as well. And being 6'1" and 6'2" at a point guard, it's not ideal. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, but Jalen Brunson's a point guard and he's playing really well in the NBA. Donovan Mitchell, he's a point guard. He's playing really well in the NBA. Isaiah Thomas, Allen Iverson, they were all in the NBA. Now, the difference between all of those players and Bronny is that they're known for scoring. They can put the ball in the hoop. It doesn't matter who's in front of them. They're putting the ball in the hoop. And like all the players that I just mentioned, Jalen Brunson, while he is short, he can put the ball in the hoop. And Donovan Mitchell, while he's also short, he can sure put the ball in the hoop. Allen Iverson can put the ball in the hoop. Isaiah Thomas, both of the Isaiah Thomases, when the one from the Pistons and the one from the Boston Celtics, they were both able to put the ball in the hoop. Now, obviously, the Celtics Isaiah Thomas got ruined by Boston, unfortunately, and wasn't putting the ball in the hoop nearly as much afterwards, but still, he was able to put the ball in the hoop. And that was where teams found his value, because while you are going to be a defensive liability at that height, you can put the ball in the hoop. And that brings up another issue with Bronny's game. The fact that his defense is the strongest thing to his game. He is a 6'2" guard, which immediately makes him a liability on the defense in the NBA. He's going to go up against a bunch of point guards that are just way taller than him, and on top of that, running a pick and roll, he makes him an immediate mismatch every single time that a team switches. And as an NBA team, you can't really have a defensive liability in your rotation unless that defensive liability is getting you buckets at a consistent rate. And that is the problem with Bronny James. He is not known as a competent scorer. And his height, combined with the fact that he's not known as a competent scorer, is a huge problem. Because, sure, he can play defense, but what does that matter when everyone else is going to be taller than you and everyone else can shoot over you? And you're just going to be a liability off of every single switch. That is the big problem with Bronny James and his game. His height, a major problem that I completely overlooked. Like, I genuinely thought that Bronny was a little bit taller than being 6'2", but granted, I mean, I'm incredibly short as a person, so I mean, being 6'2" is ridiculously tall in my eyes. So, but in the NBA's perspective, that is not that tall, and that is a huge liability to have on the defensive side of the ball. No matter how good his defense was in college, it's not going to be the same in the NBA. Teams are going to exploit that. Teams are going to abuse that. And when you're not a competent scorer, tough. That is very, very tough. So, because he's not a very good scorer and because of his height, I don't think he's going to get drafted. Like, that is too much. That is too much of a risk to draft him. Now, this is why I believe that he should have waited and developed his game in college so that way he can sort of develop his reputation as being much more of, a much better scorer than what he was, as well as, just a much better player overall with the experience that he has in college, playing against more competition as opposed to just getting thrown into the NBA just off of the first year. So that's sort of the big reason why I don't think Bronny is going to get drafted in this year's draft class. Now, if he does, all power to him. But if the Lakers don't draft him, I don't think any team is going to express interest in Bronny, which is really going to bring up the next question: what will Bronny do? Where will he go? What's the next step for Bronny if he doesn't get drafted? Is he going to complain? Is he going to talk to his dad about it? Who knows? But from what I know, the LeBron and Bronny, they both want they want Bronny to be selected based off of his talent and not based off of the fact that LeBron is his father. Now, it's like, it's tough, obviously. Like, I mean, it's a really tough decision, and it's a flip of a coin, and it's a really huge risk in drafting that guard. Now, there was an argument that was presented to me saying that maybe if he gets to play or if he gets to train under a bunch of NBA trainers, they can really focus his game and they can hone in on his skill set and his his defense and his offense, and they can improve that if he was to work with the coaches in the NBA. Like, I can somewhat see that, but at the same time, I think that's still a very, very high risk in trying to work with someone that's that tall and isn't really known for being that much of a scorer. I think it's a huge risk, in my personal opinion. Again, that's just my opinion. Now, we have to see a little bit later on in the rest of the day. I'm looking at the TV right now because, the draft, it's supposed to start, I believe, at like 4 o'clock today this time. So we do have to see just how well the player, how the players are going to be drafted, and if the Lakers are really going to just use their pick on Bronny. I don't think that's a good idea, though. That's just my opinion. So that's it for the fourth segment and why I don't think Bronny's going to get drafted. And with that, we can go right ahead and go into the fifth segment where we give a quick update on the NBA and the free agency moves, because there are 3 new reports that I have for you guys that I kind of want to talk about. I want to talk about all of them because I feel like they're all relatively important. So I will be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.